In Leviticus, an Old Testament book of the Bible, it says, "Whoever takes a human life shall surely be put to death. Whoever takes an animal life shall make it good life for life. If anyone injures his neighbor, as he has done it shall be done to him. Fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, whatever injury he has given a person shall be given to him." Now, there are lots of parts of the Old Testament that I wrestle with, and in my better moments, I wrestle with these verses too. It's not that I'm regularly going around killing people or animals, I hope, but in my worst moments, I take these verses and I think, revenge, sweet revenge. You cut me off while I'm driving? Well, I'm going to accelerate around you and I'm going to cut you off. Fracture for fracture. It's biblical. Now, you snag the next place in line at the grocery store with your 47 items in the self-checkout. Well, I'm going faster next time and I have 47 items now too. Eye for an eye. It's biblical. You're saying swear words and anger toward me? Well, guess what? I have some creative language that I'd like to share with you too. Tooth for a tooth. It's biblical. And when it comes to enemies, like real enemies, there's a part of me that wants them to get what I feel they deserve. Whatever injury they have given to me, I want to give it back to them. Maybe you felt that way too at times. By the way, those verses in Leviticus are about not escalating harm. They're about proportionate responses. And you'll notice my responses were proportional. They're biblical. And then Jesus talks about those verses in Leviticus in his Sermon on the Mount. And he says to me and to all of his followers, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evildoer. But if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, give your coat as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go also the 2nd mile. Give to the one who asks of you, and do not refuse anyone who wants to borrow from you." That's a little different than what I was thinking about when I'm in the checkout line or driving my car or listening to someone swear at me. Today we're going to talk again about what Jesus says to us about enemies. Because as followers of Jesus, we don't resolve enmity, and again, that's having enemies, by destroying our enemies. We don't just get rid of enemies. Jesus ushered in a different system, a new way of living that changes the order of power itself. And this is called the reign of God. But before we get to that, let's reflect a moment on how challenging this is going to be for us, not just with enemies, but with the people who annoy us or inconvenience us or delay us. These people aren't even enemies, and we still struggle to respond to them well. I gave examples of shopping and driving and dealing with someone's angry swearing. Here's our first question for discussion. What actions of others tempt you to lash out in response? Let's take a moment and let's talk about that.